Hello, everybody. Welcome to Spiritual Awakening 101. My name is Jerry Yakov, and I'm your host. I'm a student and teacher of metaphysics, spiritual awakening. I want to start out with a reference to the 12 steps that we find originated with the AA movement, but of course has spawned so many of the other 12-step movements. Al-Anon is, of course, another example. The first step of the 12 steps says that we admitted we were powerless and that our lives had become unmanageable. I think this is a very important step because it takes the motivational factor into account. Somebody becomes aware of the unmanageability and powerlessness of their lives, and they reach out to a power greater than themselves, and they say, I need help. This is not working. I feel that my life is unmanageable, and I'm recognizing that it isn't other people necessarily that are causing the unmanageability. There's something within me that needs to be in some way corrected or changed. Well, once this step is taken, we move out of denial. We come to believe that there is a power greater than ourselves. It can restore us to sanity. And that's the second step. So first is the coming out of denial and the motivational step, realizing that there is another way, a better way, something that can ease our minds and make life a lot more enjoyable, a lot more understandable, and as the first step says, a lot more manageable. And then, of course, we move to the second step, which makes reference to the higher power, which I call God. And only God can restore us to sanity. There is, of course, the God of your understanding. I would suggest that it would be something on the order of a loving God, a God of redemption, a God of salvation of your soul, a God that places you in the loving arms, in a place where you can seek refuge when you feel lonely, when you feel unloved. These are all the possibilities. It could be the group that you're a part of represents the higher power. It could be nature, could be your heart as a symbol of the higher power. All these things make sense once you open up your mind. The mind and the soul are a good reference to the source of the mind and the soul, which is God. And God, of course, is the power, the infinite intelligence, the infinite power and omnipotence, the omniscience, the omnipresence that can change our lives. All we have to do is seek that, and that's the step three. We make a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of this loving higher power. And when we do that, of course, then we're in a whole other state of mind. The state of mind is either ego or spiritual. Those are really the only two choices that we have. The 12 steps refer to it as self-will or God's will. And we, as having free will to make a decision for one of those two states of mind, come to realize that the choice is ours. It's not somebody else's. It never was anybody else's. It's always been our decision, but we were probably making a decision for self-will, egoic thinking without realizing it, rather unwittingly. But now we recognize that we do have a choice. And in that choice, I choose the Spirit. I choose the power within me that loves me, that created me, that can give me all the power and all of the wisdom and the knowledge that I'm seeking to make my life manageable and to be restored to sanity. Sanity is maybe, or insanity with the ego, is a rather strong term. However, I think, in no way underestimates what's at stake here. We're either in our insane minds, completely disconnected from the power that's within us, or we're in our sane minds, we're lucid, we're associated rather than dissociated from God. We're in a spiritually fit condition when we choose the Spirit. So we make a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God, and it's never, ever too late. Never too late in your day, never too late in your life. There's always the possibility to make that decision and to make it in the moment. Now, will that decision be a decision for eternity? In one sense, no. We seem to have a penchant for going back to the egoic mind and the suffering that seems so familiar and part of life itself. It's all around us. Collective unconscious I think, based in fear and ego, and our individual consciousness is as well. So that's the no part of the question. I think the yes part, that we make that decision for all time, is because there's nothing that can alter God's creative ability. God has created us as sane. God created us as loving, to have a manageable life, a fulfilling life. So all we have to do is align ourselves with what is already the truth. And remember, the egoic state of mind is not the truth, it's insane. So there's no truth to it. There's no cause, there's no effect in something that's untrue. So that's the yes part of the answer. We make the decision for all time, but we may not at the conscious level be aware of it. So we practice over and over, day in and day out. And each day, of course, is another commitment. Now, if there are any challenges, if there are any blocks to the awareness of the decision for spirit, we call somebody, or we read some inspiring literature, or we sit in prayer and meditation and seek to improve our conscious contact with God. Step 11, making sure that we're intending to be relieved of the suffering and the fear that comes along with the egoic thinking or the self-will driven, self-will run riot. And again, it's never too late in the day to start over again. It doesn't have to be first thing in the morning you have a perfect day. But there are practices that allow for a perfect day. Starting out each morning and saying, I'm going to turn my will and life over to God. I'm going to let God, of my understanding, which is filled with love and care and kindness and compassion, I'm going to let this God make all my decisions for me today. Now, does that mean, and I'm asking rhetorical questions here, I recognize that, but does that mean that I won't make mistakes during the day? I think the answer to that is inevitably I'll be making mistakes because I'm still in a human dream. I'm a spiritual being having a human dream and experiences. And so I want to, as quickly as possible, regain my spiritual footing, if you will. And that's to make the decision for God and God's kingdom, which is within my mind and my heart. And when I make this decision ongoingly, these are the maintenance steps that we find in the 12 steps. An example of a maintenance step would be step 10. I continue to take personal inventory if I'm not feeling right. And I find that when I've made a mistake, and this has led to more suffering and more disillusionment, I then turn back again to my original morning decision to let God restore me to sanity and turn my will and my life over to God. So this is the practice, making the decision, sitting in prayer and meditation, reading inspirational literature, maybe using the telephone and calling somebody, a friend who's in the program. All of this helps us to make a decision in alignment with our true nature, the true self. We've been operating and performing and thinking as the false self for so long that we're really in no position to extricate ourselves from that alone. We must use our higher power. That's the way it's been set up. That is the creative um, process. That is the spiritual practice that we have. We submit ourselves, we surrender. We're undergoing a purification of our mind, our body, our spirit, our wisdom or lack of wisdom. And it's an ongoing one. There is a question as to how long it'll take. Well, in a sense, that question is inappropriate because there is no time in the dimension that we're operating in spiritually. Time is not a factor. Time is only a factor in the illusory world of form, but in the non-dual, non-illusory mind of Christ or Buddha or the Tao, Krishna, there is no time. There's only eternity. And eternity, of course, does not address the question, how long will it take to awaken? We're already awake in eternity in our Christ consciousness and in our Buddha nature. But in the becoming the Buddha, becoming the Christ consciousness, there seems to be form, there seems to be measurement, there seems to be time elapsing in a linear fashion. So we can answer that question, at least parenthetically, by saying lifetimes can be saved. Reincarnated lifetimes can be saved by practicing with due diligence and real vigilance for God and God's kingdom within us. Because when we seek the kingdom of God, which is within our true minds, then everything as an outward extension or picture of that will reflect the clarity, will reflect the true knowledge. And in that sense, we're home. We recognize we're already home. And we're not concerned or tripped up by the question, well, how long is this going to take? How long do I have to go to meetings? How long do I have to read, these numerous books? How long do I have to? How long do I have to? Well, the truth is that you don't have to. But you're probably, like me, not in a position to have fully let go yet. So you have to. It's a paradoxical conundrum. It's the sound of one hand clapping. It's the koan. How long am I going to have to do this? And the answer, of course, is very deep. We're just scratching the surface here. But as you become more and more involved in the life and in the way and in the promise of Jesus and of the Buddha and of the Tao and any other wisdom path that you may choose, new thought, and so forth, cause and effect, the good, the law of good, the law of karma. These are all the finger that points to the moon. It isn't the moon, but it's the finger that points to the moon. Forgiveness is a good example. That is a symbol of heavenly love here in the earthly realms. In the earthly realms, forgiveness is the finger that points to the moon, which is representational or the metaphor for love. All of that is the truth. Forgiveness is love. Love is represented by forgiveness in the earthly domain. This is a classroom in which we learn to correct our mistakes. So it seems that we make mistakes first. We choose wrongly. And then, as Jesus says, my brother, choose again, but this time choose with me. Make sure that you're making a decision for love and spirit rather than judgment and fear. And I'll help you. I can help you to be restored to sanity. I can help you to awaken from the dream of separation from God and from your brethren. Well, these are all wonderful, and I have a reading here. I like to refer to the 365 Days of Richer Living. This is a book by Ernest Holmes. Today is September 4th, and the entry is, His law is written in my heart. This is very much what we've been talking about. God's law is written already in the creative process of who and what I am, my true self. So it's written in my heart. And the heart, again, is a symbol. It's a metaphor for the Christ nature, for the Buddha nature, for unconditional agape love. This is the nature, this is the truth. Well, anyway, here it says, in His law is written in my heart. Since the only life you can have is the life of the Spirit within you, you need but permit its radiance to flow through your thought into self-expression. You are surrounded by a dynamic force, a great surge of living power. You are immersed in and saturated with the vital essence of life. Its presence permeates everything, binding all together in one complete whole. W-H-O-L-E. And holy, H-O-L-Y. Excuse me. So what I'm saying, and what this paragraph I think is suggesting very, very elegantly, is that there is only one life, and that's the life of spirit. Any life that we've been leading of self-will and ego is counterfeit, and it leads to suffering, as anything counterfeit is apt to do. But the spirit that's within me needs my permission to let the great rays of its radiance to shine through my thought system, my mental system, so that I'm expressing true self. This is the nature and the way of free will. God loves us so much that He gave us the free will to choose. And there are infinite possibilities of choice on the one hand. But on the other hand, there are only, as we said at the outset, only two choices. And I'm choosing spirit rather than ego, because the ego is fearful and the spirit is loving. And I can surrender my life and my will to love. Now, that's not romantic love. It's not the earthly kind of love that we're talking about. What we're talking about is Christ love, the love of one spiritual being, one soul to another. The idea that we're one in nature. We're connected by the God source. And since we're connected in and of the God source, you and I are one as well. And that defines love as far as love can ever be defined. It's a oneness, as it said here, binding all together in one complete whole. And that whole is holiness, it's divinity. We have a divine nature that can be expressed. That's my ministry, to remind me I'm teaching to learn, and to let others know that we are divine spirits. We're loving spirits that can express ourselves lovingly, even if we make a mistake and we choose again. How rapidly can we make the choice? And to pivot away from the ego and self-will driven thoughts, speech, behavior. How quickly can we right the ship, so to speak, to the nature of the Christ and the Buddha? How quickly do we correct and make amends if we hurt somebody, if we were wrong? That's the 10th step. That's one of the maintenance steps. I also want to make reference to the 4th step, which is a searching and fearless inventory of ourselves on a moral level. We're looking at our morality not in terms of sinfulness, not in terms of guilt, not in terms, again, of fear of punishment, but we're looking at, am I exhibiting the Christ nature as often as I can? Or am I turning it as quickly as I can when I make a mistake and I'm not being loving? How quickly am I turning? What are the obstacles to my turning very quickly to the God center within my heart? Am I impatient? Am I anger prone? Do I experience envy and jealousy? Do I have low self-esteem and feel unworthy of God's love? Do I project these feelings through transference and see other people as unworthy so that I don't have to look at my own issues? They're the ones that have all the things that I'm suppressing within myself that I'm not willing to look at. Excuse me. I had a teacher years ago in California who, I'm trying to think now, he was maybe 10, 15 years older than I am. And I saw him recently on a video, and he was describing, he's now, it's got to be in his 80s, how what he described as old man sniffles. And he had gone to his doctor, and there really was nothing that they could do for him. His nose just ran a lot. And I'm finding that that's kind of my experience with the old man sniffles. So I beg your pardon, and throughout the video, I'll be dabbing at my nose to at least take up the old man sniffles. Well, let's go on to the next paragraph. Sorry for that divergence there, but I did think of Werner Erhard and his description. I guess what we all go through is really a reflection of the oneness that we share in heaven. As bodies on the earthly plane, we all go through similar phases, chapters, if you will, in our lives. There are stages of our lifetimes where we can either be making advances or we're stuck. And I know the feeling at a particular stage in my life where I felt stuck. And there were so many others that would commiserate with me because they felt stuck as well. But I know that overall now, I'm continually evolving. I'm progressing. I'm not in a place of stuckness anymore. Overall, I'm making progress. Now, my other spiritual path, A Course in Miracles, says we're not in a position really to judge how much progress we're making. Progress is really not possible because our egos will get in the way. Even the whole idea of making progress, in a sense, is antithetical to the fact that I'm perfect and you're perfect. We've been created in the likeness and image of God, perfection. We've just fallen asleep and forgotten the perfection that we already are. Well, let's go on to the next paragraph. Because my whole being is the life of God in me, I have nothing to fear. Everyone I meet is part of the same wholeness in which I live. Every person I meet is a center of the great unity of life. It is this center of life that I meet in all persons. It is this unity in and through all that I respond to. I cannot wish anyone harm, nor does anyone desire to harm me. Through my consciousness of love, which is the very essence of goodness, I transform any apparent imperfection into the perfect idea of true being. Well, this is a reference to the true self, rather than the false self that felt separated and isolated and filled with recrimination and guilt and sin and unworthiness. No, I know and I affirm that I am one with God and that my mind, my body, and my soul are truthful, are powerful, are strengthened in the love of my higher power, and that I have a mission. I'm a messenger of God. I'm one of God's angels. I'm a godling. And as a godling, I practice these principles of love in everything that I do. This is the 12th step. I've had a spiritual awakening, and I affirm that I know what I know, what I know. Deep, deep, deep in my heart, I know the truth. Even though at times I forget, I turn very quickly back to the light, which shines away the darkness in my mind and in my heart. Well, the final paragraph, and it's a short one, it says, I am knowing people as God knows them. I'm seeing everything as God must see it. His law is written in my mind and felt in my heart. I see God everywhere. Well, the truth is that God can be seen everywhere because God is in my right mind. And it's my right mind that discerns what it is that I see. It determines. I'm the observer, and I determine the observed through my right mind, my Christ consciousness, my Buddha nature. I love both references to Christ, the living Christ, and Buddha, the living Buddha. They are eternal within our minds and hearts, and they're always available to transform that which we are thinking, that which we are speaking, and that which we're saying and doing and perceiving. Everything gets reversed, corrected, if you will, corrected in a way that it returns back to its truthful nature. And the darkness is shown away by the great rays of the Christ and the Buddha. It's wonderful, wonderful stuff. And I'm just so grateful and thankful that I have a chance to express this on these videos. I appreciate Ernest Holmes. I read him a lot. I read A Course in Miracles. We have a 2 times a week a Course in Miracles conference call on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. and on Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m. And we have about 10 or 12 people on average that attend these conference calls. And we discuss the wisdom teachings and we apply them in our lives and we check in with each other and we support each other. We're letting each other know that, yes, I recognize the Christ and the Buddha in you. And I know that you recognize the Christ and the Buddha in me. Namaste. Thank you for being on this call. And if you would like to join us on that conference call on Sundays and Wednesday mornings at 10, there's a phone number that'll be on the graphic at the end of this video. And you can call me and I'll give you the details as to the phone-in number and the access number that you need to put in there. And you'll be on the call with us. We invite newcomers. We invite beginners. You know, the beginner's mind is a very precious place to be because at that place, you've just come out of step 1 and you've said, I'm willing to make a change. There's got to be another way, a better way. And I have an inkling that that better way is within me. The kingdom of heaven and the kingdom of God is within me, as Jesus said. And I'm willing to explore that. And I'm willing to do that with my fellow travelers. Here they are, here I am. Let's get together. So look for that phone number. Give me a call. Look for the book, 365 Days of Richer Living. Look for A Course in Miracles. Get into a 12-step group if you're so inclined. Go online and check out the many different 12-step groups that one may fit your circumstances. But I'm encouraging. I'm here to be encouraging. I'm here to be helpful. That's what we all want to do, is be helpful to our brothers and sisters. And in that, I'll say, thank you so much, NECAT. Thank you so much, Candace, for being the editor of this. Thank you so much, viewers, for catching the shows that you do and listening to what we all have to say. It's been a wonderful privilege. And with that, namaste, shalom, and peace. And we'll see you next time.